I was wrong about narcissism. Opening, gauge the audience. You ever thought you had someone figured out only to realize you were completely wrong? I did. I thought narcissism was just about selfish, egotistical people who didn't care about anyone but themselves. But let me tell you something. I was wrong. I used to think narcissism was the enemy. I used to believe it was a trait we needed to crush, eliminate, avoid at all costs. But what if I told you that buried beneath the surface of narcissism is something deeper? What if I told you that our understanding of it is what's actually broken? The shift challenged the belief. We've been taught that narcissists are the problem, that they're destructive, but here's the truth. There's a spectrum, and in that spectrum, some people are consumed by their own insecurities and create pain for others, but some tap into something powerful. I was wrong because I failed to see that there's a side of narcissism that, when harnessed correctly, can drive confidence, leadership, and unshakable belief in oneself. The real problem? It's not narcissism. It's unshaked, unconscious narcissism. Lead transformation, build momentum. You see, narcissism at its worst is insecurity wearing a mask of arrogance. It's a cry for validation, a fear of being seen as weak. But at its best, it's the fuel that turns vision into reality. It's the self-belief that refuses to let doubt win. Some of the greatest leaders, innovators, and world changers had a touch of narcissism. They believed in themselves even when no one else did. But they didn't wait for permission. They took action. They turned self-focus into service, self-belief into impact. So the question isn't, how do we get rid of narcissism? The real question is, how do we channel it? Instead of letting it become destructive, how do we turn it into fuel for greatness? How do we transform ego into confidence, arrogance into leadership, and self-obsession into purpose? Because listen to me, if you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. If you don't see your own worth, the world won't either. I was wrong about narcissism, but you know what? I was willing to admit it, to grow, to see the bigger picture. And that's the secret to life. You can rewrite your story. So stop letting the world tell you who you are. Stop fearing the labels. Own your confidence, channel your fire, and turn your self-belief into something that makes a difference. Because the world doesn't need more people who play small. It needs you fully unleashed, stepping into the person you are meant to be. Narcissism is a spectrum. Most people think narcissism is just one thing, a toxic, destructive personality trait that should be avoided at all costs. But let me tell you, that's only part of the truth. The reality is that narcissism isn't a simple label, it's a spectrum, and where you fall on that spectrum makes all the difference. On one end, you have the extreme, the people who manipulate, exploit, and control. These are the ones who make headlines, the ones we hear about in horror stories. But on the other end, there's something entirely different. There's a form of narcissism that's not about destruction, but about self-belief, vision, and resilience. The problem is most people only see the negative side. They lump it all together. But let me ask you something. If every single person who had strong self-belief was a narcissist, then how do you explain the greatest leaders, the greatest entrepreneurs, the greatest revolutionaries? Do you think they got where they are by constantly doubting themselves, by waiting for permission, by playing small so nobody thought they were too full of themselves? Absolutely not. They had a level of self-focus that allowed them to push forward when the world said you can't. They understood that narcissism itself isn't the enemy, it's how it's used that makes it dangerous or powerful. They tapped into the fire inside them and used it to create, lead, and inspire. What if I told you that you've been misled? What if I told you that somewhere along the way you've been taught to fear self-belief, to suppress it, to label it as arrogance? But that's not how greatness happens. That's not how you change your life. You don't change the world by constantly questioning your worth. You don't rise by staying small. There is a spectrum, and if you land on the side of purpose-driven confidence, you will elevate yourself and the people around you. But if you suppress that energy, if you refuse to step into it, you'll keep holding yourself back. And let me tell you something, there's nothing noble about staying small. There's nothing admirable about denying your own power. The world needs more people who own who they are and use it for good. You have a choice. You can either misunderstand narcissism and fear it, or you can realize that a certain level of it is necessary to become unstoppable. You can learn to direct it, to control it, to channel it into something that actually creates instead of destroys. Because here's the truth. If you don't claim your confidence, someone else will claim your opportunities. If you don't believe in yourself, someone else will step in and take what could have been yours. So the question is, where do you fall on the spectrum? Have you been told to dim your light? Have you been made to believe that confidence is a bad thing? Or are you ready to take control, to step up, to embrace the kind of belief that moves mountains? Unchecked narcissism is the problem. It's not narcissism itself that's the problem. It's narcissism that goes unchecked. It's narcissism that runs wild, without self-awareness, without purpose. That's what creates chaos. That's what destroys relationships, businesses, and lives. You've seen it before. The person who is so focused on themselves that they don't even care who they hurt along the way. The person who is so obsessed with their own reflection that they forget to bring value to the world. That kind of narcissism, it's toxic, it's dangerous, and it has nothing to do with true self-belief. Because real power comes with responsibility. Real confidence lifts others up, not just yourself. The problem is, a lot of people don't know the difference. They either go full ego and burn everything around them, or they go to the other extreme and suppress their confidence completely. Neither one leads to success. Because let me tell you, if you don't manage your ego, it will manage you. It will sabotage you. It will make you think you're invincible when you're actually vulnerable. And when you fall, you'll have no one left to help you back up. That's why unchecked narcissism is a trap. It tricks you into thinking you don't need to grow. It makes you believe you already have all the answers. And that belief will hold you back more than anything else. Great leaders, great achievers, great creators, they understand the balance. They know how to be confident, but also how to listen. They know how to trust themselves, but also when to challenge their own thinking. And that's what separates the people who rise from the people who self-destruct. So let me ask you, where are you on this? Are you in control of your confidence, or is it controlling you? Because when you own it, when you check yourself, when you stay aware, you become unshakable. You become the kind of person who doesn't just demand attention, but actually earns respect. And that is where true power comes from, not from unchecked narcissism, not from blind arrogance, but from conscious self-mastery. Belief in oneself is necessary for greatness. Listen to me. If you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will. People are waiting for a sign, for a green light, for some kind of permission to go after what they want. But let me tell you something. No one is coming to give it to you. You have to decide. You have to step into it. You have to wake up every single day and own your vision, own your path, own your power. Because if you don't, the world will convince you to stay small. Society will tell you to play it safe. People who are afraid to step into their own greatness will try to keep you from stepping into yours. And you can't let that happen. Every single person you admire, every legend, every icon, every game changer, at some point they had to bet on themselves, and they had to stand up and say, I am capable, I am worthy, I am unstoppable. And here's the thing, you can't fake belief. You can't just kind of believe in yourself. It has to be real. It has to be strong enough to keep going even when things don't go your way. Because let me tell you, there will be obstacles. There will be failures. There will be moments where doubt creeps in. And in those moments, the only thing that will carry you forward is your own belief in who you are and what you're meant to do. So if you don't have that belief, if you haven't built it, if you've been waiting for someone to hand it to you, it's time to stop waiting. It's time to start choosing to see yourself as powerful, choosing to trust yourself even when no one else does, choosing to step into your purpose with full, unstoppable certainty, because that is what greatness demands. That is what success requires. And if you can cultivate that level of belief, if you can hold on to it through every storm, then nothing will be able to stop you. Ego can be destructive or empowering. Ego, it's one of the most misunderstood forces in human nature. Some say it's the root of all failure. Others say it's the foundation of all success. But let me tell you the truth, your ego is neither good nor bad. It's a tool. And how you use it determines everything. A weak ego, it crumbles under pressure. It gets defensive. It lashes out when challenged. It refuses to grow because it's afraid of being wrong. But a strong, controlled ego, that's where power comes from. That's the kind of ego that says, I will rise, not because I think I'm better than anyone, but because I refuse to settle. Most people never master their ego. They either let it run wild and destroy everything in its path, or they suppress it entirely and let the world walk all over them. But let me tell you something, ego is energy. And if you can learn to direct that energy, you become unstoppable. Think about it. What makes someone step onto a stage in front of thousands of people? What makes an entrepreneur risk everything to build something that doesn't even exist yet? What makes an athlete train harder than everyone else? It's not luck, it's not talent alone. It's belief in themselves. It's the fire inside that says, I can, I will, watch me. And that fire, that's ego. But here's the difference. It's ego with purpose, ego with discipline, ego that is trained to fuel action, not destruction. Because when ego is left unchecked, it blinds you and makes you think you're too good to learn, too smart to listen, too powerful to fail. And that's when you lose. That's when you fall. But when you control it, when you let it push you without poisoning you, that's when you win. That's when you step into the kind of confidence that changes your life and the lives of the people around you. So let me ask you, are you in control of your ego, or is it controlling you? Are you using it to rise, or is it making you reckless? Are you leading with confidence, or are you letting arrogance get in the way? Because the greatest leaders, the greatest achievers, they know how to walk that line. They know how to balance humility with power. They know how to use their ego to push them forward without letting it push people away. And that's the key. Not to kill your ego, not to fear it, but to master it, to turn it into a force for growth, for leadership, for something bigger than yourself. Because when you do that, that's when you become the kind of person who doesn't just succeed, you inspire. Turn self-focus into service. Listen, there's nothing wrong with focusing on yourself, nothing. Anyone who tells you otherwise is trying to keep you small. But here's the secret most people miss. True fulfillment doesn't come from just focusing on yourself. It comes from using your gifts to serve others. Think about the most powerful people in history, the ones who changed the game. They weren't just focused on themselves. They were focused on impact. They were focused on how their vision could make the world better. Because here's the truth, self-focus is necessary. You need to work on yourself. You need to develop your mind, your skills, your strength. But if it stops with you, if it's only about you, then you'll never feel truly fulfilled. Because real power, real success is when you take everything you've built and use it to lift others up. That's the difference between an ego-driven leader and a purpose-driven leader. One takes, the other gives. One demands attention, the other commands respect. So let me ask you, are you just chasing success for yourself, or are you thinking bigger? Are you looking at how you can make an impact? How you can take what you've learned, what you've fought for, and use it to change lives? Because when you do that, everything shifts. You stop chasing validation. You stop needing approval. Because you're not just working for yourself anymore. You're working for something bigger. And let me tell you, that kind of power, it's magnetic. It draws people in. It makes people trust you, follow you, believe in you. Because people don't follow arrogance. They follow vision. They follow someone who isn't just obsessed with being at the top, but is obsessed with helping others rise too. So if you want real success, lasting success, start asking yourself, how can I serve? How can I take my skills, my fire, my drive, and use it to make a difference? Because the moment you shift from selfish ambition to unstoppable contribution, that's when you stop just making money and start making an impact. And that's when you truly win. Rewrite your own story. Most people are living a script they didn't write. They're following a story someone else handed to them. Parents, teachers, society. And they wonder why they feel stuck. But let me tell you something. You can rewrite your story anytime you want. You can decide right now that the past does not define you, that your mistakes do not limit you, that you are not who people say you are who you choose to become. Because listen, every successful person you admire, they weren't born into it. They decided, they took control of their narrative. They refused to let their past dictate their future. And you have that same power. Right now, the question is, are you going to use it, or are you going to keep believing the lies? The ones that say you're not smart enough, not strong enough, not capable enough. Because if you keep believing those stories, you will keep living them. But the second you decide that you are in control, that's the second everything changes. So stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for someone to tell you that you're good enough. Take the pen, rewrite the damn story, because the only limits in your life are the ones you refuse to let go of. The world needs you at your fullest potential. Let me tell you something powerful. The world does not need you playing small. It doesn't need you doubting yourself. It doesn't need you waiting for the right time to step into your greatness. It needs you at your fullest potential right now, because there is something only you can bring to this world. There is a gift inside you that no one else has in exactly the same way. And if you don't share it, if you don't step up, the world loses something. Every great leader, every game changer, every person who made history had a moment where they realized it's not just about me, it's about the impact I can make. So let me ask you, what are you waiting for? Are you going to let doubt win? Or are you going to let fear hold you back? Or are you going to step up, rise up, and give everything you have? Because the world doesn't need another person sitting on their potential. It needs someone willing to go all in, own your power, step into greatness. Listen to me, everything we've talked about today comes down to one thing: choice. You can choose to stay where you are, trapped by old beliefs, held back by fear, waiting for someone to tell you you're ready.